Hello, everyone. My name is Lachlann. I write for Monday Morning. I'm also an analyst on Exponential Stock Investor. Now, today I will be talking about another BNPL hype stock. They're everywhere these days, but I'm not going to denigrate them or anything like that. They've been wildly successful investments for a number of retail investors. So I'm just going to dive straight into some of the announcements from Sezzle. They're pushing into the US. We previously talked about Zipco and going after Afterpay's market share. And I made the point that these companies are there's still a lot of greenfield retail customers out there. So they're not necessarily competitors, and it's sort of not relevant to think of things like competition risk in this sector for now, I think. But we're just going to look at some of the headlines, some of the announcements. We'll go through their quarterly, and I'll give you a bit of a sense about how I, start to look at a stock and what I look for in a financial statement. It's pretty basic stuff, but hopefully you pick up some tips and tricks along the way. So let's dive straight in. So I've got the announcement here, which is that Sezzle has signed a US 250 million receivables warehouse facility. This basically allows them to more aggressively push into the US and Canada. It's being bankrolled by Goldman Sachs and Bastion Funding. Now, you can see the terms of it here. This is all pretty standard stuff for BNPL, and the share price actually moved about 3% higher. I guess it gives investors a bit more sense of security, knowing that they can potentially increase the amount of receivables on their balance sheet. So yeah, that's a good thing for Sezzle, definitely. But I just want to highlight a few things in the Sezzle chart. So what you've got here, you got a fib retracement. It's threatening to punch higher above its all-time high here, about 1030, and it's currently trading. Sorry, not 1030. It's around 1150. Let's just check this bar out. Yeah, it went as high as 1183. So there's potentially still, the way you could think about this chart is there's still some headroom before people might want to exit at that all-time high. People who got in at the FOMO moment and need the cash. Weak hands get replaced by stronger hands. This is a classic saying. It's got a bit of a downtrend here, and yeah, it's punching higher. There's a fair bit of upwards momentum now, but it'll be interesting to see if some selling creeps in at about that all-time high of 1183 there. So if the momentum continues, it'll be interesting to see what's going on there. You got some moving averages. It's an interesting chart, and it's punched through this fib level right here. So there's a lot to consider here about Sezzle's place in the buy now pay later sphere in the US. And I've got an article here from Reuters which talks a bit about the buy now pay later phenomena in the US. And well, they've done some research, and 40% of US consumers who use BNPL miss more than one payment. Unsurprising, I grew up in the States. People love their credit cards to buy frivolous items. I mean, maybe that's a bit harsh on the US, but it's sort of a trend that's been around for decades, if not since its inception as a country. But yeah, so 72% of the users saw their credit score decline, but 42% of respondents had used the service before. So that means that there's still potentially, as I referred to it as greenfield retail customers out there that could use BNPL services. So I guess that's the upside there. But there's also the risk that the regulatory risk I mentioned before. There's the risk that there's perhaps an increase in certain consumers' inability to pay back or make those payments on time. So let's just take a look at the quarterly here. So this is the December quarter, therefore C. Now, what you've got here is a lot of a lot of strong growth numbers, right here. Quarter-on-quarter change of 40.6%. Now, Sezzle now has a market cap of 1.9 billion. Let's just think about perhaps how you go about valuing Sezzle. So let's just skip all of this. Well, the company always presents things nicely, which is pretty standard fare. But this is what I'm most interested in. So this is the consolidated statement of cash flows. You can see they went through 22 mil in operating cash. So they're actually going through cash at a fair clip. Now, the next thing you'd want to look at, and it's all broken down here, biggest expenditure is manufacturing and operating costs. Interesting. So I guess, but they've gotten a massive amount of receipts right there. That's 284 million in receipts from customers. So the revenue there is looking reasonably good, but it's got 89 million cash. So hypothetically, you can just figure out quite quickly how long they have before they need to tap the market for more cash. They're required to estimate the quarters of funding available. So they say 5.1 there, but you should be figuring that out in your head just as you read through a 4C. So yeah, and obviously they would go to the market for cash, you'd hope well in advance of that. Let's see what some of their metrics are. So they got a price to sales ratio of 50 there. That's pretty steep, that's something to consider. And also the potential resistance on the chart around this sort of $11.50 mark is something to consider. Sometimes you see a pullback. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Sezzle today. Mash the subscribe button if you like this content so you can see more. And yeah, there's also a great link in the video description to the FinTechs report, which I highly recommend. There's some interesting companies profiled in there. And yeah, have a good one, guys. Good luck investing. Cheers.